All right, welcome to your web design week 1 live session. And this is a holiday break coming up, so I don't know how many of your peers will be able to attend, and I think we're waiting for one more. But in the meantime, I would like to ask, I know you are required to use the chat at this time. Feel free to go ahead and speak if you're not in a loud area or typing. But Nathan and Daniel, which programs are you in? Which degree programs are you with? Are you with DCBS or MCBS? Okay, Nathan. All right. Um, and that's what I expect generally from the DCBS. It is your last class. And something I want to start off with is that you do not need to know anything about web for this. And I know that DCBS has not had a class before on web design. You may have come in with some experience. How much experience would you say you have? Okay, and that's expected. Daniel, have you worked with web before? Okay. Well, then let me just ease your mind first. You will not build a website. Everything that you do is going to be off the shelf. It's going to be a CMS, a content management system, and you're going to be able to do this. All right. So take a deep breath. Unless you want to be a web developer, you don't have to worry about it. And we have another degree for that. Okay. So don't be concerned. This is for you. And this is what your goal will be. Your goal is to have a portfolio website that will showcase the work that you've been producing, either as a student or maybe professional work on the side. It is not important to tell anyone that it is student work just because you did it while you were a student. People continue their education all the time, and the work that you did is the work that you did, right? So, with that said, what you'll probably do, I do want to preface before I go into some details. You will probably choose Wix or Squarespace. I recommend Wix for a number of reasons. Squarespace is a great product, but it's only a trial, and it won't save your trial for very long. So stick with Wix. It's easy to operate, and hopefully, as you go through the month, you're going to be walking through the steps, and you'll learn a lot more that you may or may not need at this moment, but that will help you. Okay, you'll learn a little bit about SEO. You can do that as you're going. That is, you're just going to simply use words that um, search engines can find that relate to you and what you're doing. For example, you're certainly going to say you're a cinematographer. That's going to be your tagline. Okay, that's going to be on your front page and every page, because we don't know from which page a user will enter your site. So I'm going to go through the 10 Commandments. I believe there's also a video for you to look at. The order may be different from the video. This was a little bit by memory on this one, but um, I do want to give it to you. So I'm going to go through this, and if you have any questions, go ahead and type them. I will look over there and try and catch those. I think um, we're ready to start. Anyone who's coming in, they will hopefully easily catch up. Okay. So I'm going to just go over what we call the 10 Commandments of web. This isn't something you're going to see anywhere else. It's just something that um, Emily Ray came up when she began web classes. And actually, there were 7, and we've just added, and we've even got up to 15, which you may have the 15 fabulous tips on your site on FSO. So those are really helpful. A lot of them are the same. Okay. But so don't be confused by them. They're just helpful concepts that are really important for user experience. Okay. And the user experience we'll talk about again, and that's just how the user feels about your site. The experience is actually everything that has to do with your brand. But let's just go over this. One of the things you want to be sure you do for your user, and in this case, it will be me when you submit your site the first time. And then when you have someone visit your site, you want to do this as well if you have any links there. You want to make sure that all your links are set to open in a new tab or a new window. The reason is if we don't, we'll be sending somebody away from your site if they click on that. Okay? And then they have to somehow click to get back. And if I'm looking at your site, I have to click a number of times if I've gone into your website and any link, to try and get back to different places. So always have things open in a new tab, okay, when you give links. When you send a link to me, you want to do that, all right? When you have content that maybe you have a resume written up already, the one thing you want to do is you want to enter the text. You do not want to copy it because the formula will not translate. Okay, it won't transfer to a template that you've selected on Wix. So don't be surprised when that happens. You can strip the text easily enough. You can take it through Word and copy paste it back into your site, or you can go into a text editor that all of you have, and that will also take out the formula. But you definitely want to be prepared for that and not copy text. Okay. At the same time, you don't want to copy an image onto your site or a PDF of text. Now, you do want to have, when I say an image, it might be an ad or something that has lettering. It won't be searchable. Okay. If it is, again, an image of your resume, that content will not be searchable through search engines because it's not really text. And that's what the search engines are crawling to look for. If it's your resume, a PDF that you've put in there, it's just a picture of words. Okay. And you want your words on your resume to be those things that are specific to you, cinematography, maybe gear that you use, so that search engines, when someone does a search, that comes up for them. Okay. It won't come up for them if your resume is a picture. Okay. And like I said, you can have a copy of this. Possibly the other version is a little simpler, but you're getting a full, well-rounded exposure to this. Aligning text. It is best to align text left. When people are reading, their eye will, return to the left where they left off the first time. And if it's moving, if that margin is moving on the left, it's harder for them to read. It's hard for a user to read that. It also doesn't look as clean. So always align text left. You don't want to justify it left and right because that will change the spacing, which is called kerning, by the way, but that's just added info for you. But the spacing won't be right. So align left. You can have headers that are centered, okay? But align left your copy text, okay? I also want to see your videos and your images aligned. Using a grid is the best way to do that. Galleries that you will have um, options to use in Wix are also helpful. So I definitely want you to make every effort to line up your images and your text, your columns, all of these things. So you want to make sure that the space in between your columns are the same. The space between any image that you have is the same all the way around. Okay. Um, and you'll see more of this. And honestly, you'll break a lot of these the first time you submit your portfolio. That's expected when you submit your soft launch. And I will be giving you recorded video feedback to remind you of where you need to make corrections. And then you will make those corrections for your final submission, for your revision. Okay, so you can relax. You're going to get used to this. You're going to make some mistakes, and you're going to learn from doing that. So, padding. We never want to take text or images all the way up to the edge. We always want to leave plenty of breathing space. And actually, if you look at this slide, I would prefer more here. I did this, so I can say this. I would prefer a little more padding. I will probably go through and edit this down. I tend to write long and then edit because less is better. But you need to have padding, and that's that space around text or an image or a video. It needs to be consistent padding when you have more than one or two or a row of three or four. But it's breathing room. It helps make it seem more important also. The eye tends to look in quadrants. So we really need to make things orderly so that people can see it. We do not have to get fancy. In fact, doing so is usually a detriment. The template you choose will probably be just fine the way it is. And that is one thing that's good about Squarespace. It doesn't really let you change the template very much. It warns you that you're about to break the template. And so, there are many places to be creative, but your template really isn't one of those places. It's been organized for you, and you're better off just to think about the type of work that you're putting in, and we'll talk more about that. We'll talk about how to make that present well. Minding the scroll. There are two things I want you to remember about the user when they come to your site. They want as little as possible scrolling and as few possible clicks. All right. So if we have a menu we have to go back and forth with, maybe it enters the screen and then we select another page. Anything that is taking more clicks than necessary, we try to eliminate. If we say, in regard to minding the scroll, what this means is having content above the scroll area. It came from something that used to occur in newspapers and still does, called minding the fold. When you go to an airport or something and they have newspapers that are folded, the front page headline is always the most important, and it has to be above the fold to catch the user's attention, the buyer's attention. And so you want to keep all of your important information above the scroll so that if they go to your contact page, there's not a beautiful image that they then have to scroll past to get to your content information. Okay? If you have a content form, which will come with many of these templates, it doesn't matter how beautiful the image is. If we're asking them to scroll to get to the content, then we should not have that image there. For one thing, when they've clicked on the contact navigation button, they're expecting to find the content. Your contact there when they do that. So if we tell them your work page or is, there's a button for your works or your portfolio. They want to get right into that when they select that. Okay, so be very careful about that. Few clicks and minimum scrolling, that's your goal. Meaningful links. If you use hyperlinks, you want to make them short and descriptive. Okay, SEO will find them, and it's better for usability. Something that we call gobbledygook. If you've ever seen, and you have, a Google link that is forever long, rows of numbers and letters, that's gobbledygook. If we were to put that in our website, that would not, there are two things it wouldn't do. It would be very confusing. Nobody knows what it is. It'd be too long, not descriptive. And also for people, as far as accessibility, people who use screen readers depend on those links having some sort of meaningful title in them, because the screen reader will just go through a long dissertation on zeros and numbers and letters, and that doesn't tell them whether they want to click on that. Click here also doesn't tell them that when we say that. It's okay to say in a blog more, because they know what that means. It means more of what they just were exposed to. So there's a lot of things to think about, but you really don't have to worry too much about most of it. These are just things that are really helpful, that you will get by the end of the 4 weeks. Paragraphs. Instead of providing, imagine you have a blog, and you'll have images with examples in the video that you'll see the 10 Commandments of. If you have a blog and you have not broken any lines and you have nothing but one long paragraph, that's really hard to digest. So you want to break those up with paragraphs. You can break them up with headings or bullets. There's all sorts of ways to make it easier. We think of bullets, or rather headings, as speed bumps. It helps the user slow down and see, do I want to read this? Is this what I'm interested in? Is this what I'm looking for? And then bullets, of course, help them break things down in a list, and you don't have to write a lot out with that. So break up the content. We're almost done here with the commandments. Context. If you are creating a video and you are placing that on your works page, which could be called your portfolio, it really depends. The template may call it something different. And that is someplace where you can, customize a little. You can change the title of things on your navigation links buttons, and you'll see that. But when you have a video, it's important to list what your role is in that video. Whether you edited the video, whether you were the cinematographer, whether you were the director, cinematographer, and editor, these are the things that you need to list along with your video. So this is called providing context for your content that you're showing. Okay, that's really important. And then the last thing is contrast. Oftentimes students will want to put their favorite video behind an image that they also like, and try to get everything in one screen. And that is not recommended. The contrast is not clear enough. We always sacrifice aesthetics for usability. And believe me, and I love aesthetics, teach aesthetics, it's my background. However, if it's not readable, then we have to let those things go. It doesn't mean we can't use those pieces someday somewhere. We don't have to marry those things, though, and put them on our website. Okay, so contrast is very important. If I were to change this title to a gray, it would not be as easy to read. Okay, if I changed it to a light blue, not as easy to read. So sometimes we have to put a drop shadow behind something. Okay, that can be a solution. But we definitely have to look at contrast and make sure that the things we're including in our site have the best chance of being viewed. Okay, so at this point, I want to stop and ask you if you have any questions about some of these concepts. Okay, and you will be exposed to it again. So these are things, and you'll remember them. You'll go to sleep, and when you start looking at your template, you're going to remember these things, and it will help you a lot. It'll move you forward. Okay, so I want to talk very quickly about the definition of UX versus UI. User experience is really a very, very simple concept. And what it means is that everything that touches your brand is part of the user's experience. When you go to Full Sail, the campus is part of your student experience. When you are on FSO working with the platform, that is part of your user experience. Everything that touches Full Sail, when you phone in and you get the receptionist, that is part of your user experience with Full Sail. When you use an Apple product, everything about it, and you know it's got the nice sleek designs and things like that, everything about that is designed for your experience. The Genius Bar for Apple, when you go to the mall and have something repaired, is part of your user experience. How they go about it, how it is designed, the way they move customers through, whether you can go online and make your appointments, all those things are part of the user experience. And so it's really a very simple concept. It's just everything. Now, UI is a subset, or really, of the user experience. It just means the user interface. That would be FSO is the user interface. That's how you, it's a screen that you work with. Mobile access, but your washing machine is also has a user interface. It can be buttons, it can be anything. It's interacting with something to perform your task. So UI, the user interface, is a part of the user experience. Okay, it's one part. Whether you can access FSO through an iPad, that screen with the menu is the user interface. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions about the UX and UI? UX is really just completely brand related. Okay. All right. So here's a checklist, and this can be found. I think I want to also post it early for you, but again, this is being recorded. When you resubmit, after I give you video feedback specifically about your website, and everybody else's. And I do want you to look at the whole thing, because something that I may point out on the first one, I might not go into detail the third and fourth time we see that same situation. All right. So it's important to look at everybody's. That's how you'll really get the most out of it. You'll see things that you didn't think about. You'll see things that you almost did. You'll see things that you might come across in the future. So here are just some. There's a couple others, but here are some of the things that really have to be complete, especially for DCBS students, because this is your last chance, really, to get your portfolio ready for you to send people to see your work. Okay, so when you have a template, we'll just go over the list real quick. When you have a template, it always has photos that come with it. Okay? It has placeholder text. It will say, I am a paragraph, and it will have text there. When you submit your final website, there should be absolutely no placeholder images or text. For example, if a blog page comes with your template, but you aren't going to have a blog, or it's something you want to do in the future, but not something that you're ready to do today, or that you have anything on there right now at that submission, then that blog page needs to be disabled. We can't have it there. We can have no pages that say coming soon or under construction, which we used to see a lot, I guess in the 80s and 90s. Anything that does not have original content on it needs to be disabled. Okay? If your social media icons are not linking to your professional account, they will be included in your template, but they will go to Wix. Okay? And you definitely want to have a LinkedIn that you can send it to. If you don't have, and as a DCBS student, I hope you have an Instagram or that you plan to have one. But if you do not have those things, then those social media icons need to be removed. Okay? You can't send someone to Wix, Facebook, for example. And you want to make sure that your brand, you'll be creating a style guide this month. You'll think about your brand and a template that will kind of summarize the kind of work that you do. And that brand then carries over to your social media. The colors that you choose for your brand, the text that you choose if you have a logo. Do either of you happen to have a logo? Okay. All right. So that logo will go into your style guide when you submit that. That logo will be on all of your branding. It will be on your social media. It'll be on your website. It'll be on your business card, and it might be on your resume. Were you to download it, but you really want to enter that text, okay, and a skills page. So we talked about contrast and layering images and videos and so forth. Just avoid doing that. Keep your pages as clean as you can. I recommend avoiding parallax scrolling. There are certain images that work with parallax scrolling. They have to have a very deep depth perspective, and they have to fall back, and they can't break, so they can't really have people in them, because you're going to break heads and hands and legs out of the image. You're going to be cropping too much. I recommend avoiding it. Students love it. They get excited about it, but very few can pull it off. Parallax scrolling is it's going to be a template, and what will happen is it will have one image on the screen while another one passes over it. And it has to have an image that is darker If it's in there, it has to fall back and it has to support everything. It really is more of background. Possibly, I'll have to look at that. I think of Apple as being a one page. I don't remember them having parallax as far as images behind it, but I'll take a look. But that's a great piece of advice. I'll need to check that out. The other thing that will come along with your style guide when you create that is your tagline. It's going to be easy for you guys. A little harder for the media communications because they have a lot of different skills to choose from and think about. You're going to put cinematography. Okay. That's what you're going to do, or something like that. You're also going to have an assignment where you use Google Trends to find out what people are searching when they're looking for your skill set. So if they choose videography, you might compare videography with cinematography, see what people are searching more often, and that will be what you'll use. But that will go on your website for sure under your logo. Every template will come with a copyright date and the name of the person who designed the template. It's at the very bottom of every template, and it will say 2023. So you want to make sure that you edit that and put the date. I would put 2020 and your name. Okay. You will need an about page with a written bio. It doesn't have to be long, but it cannot be placeholder text. Okay. It can't say, I am a paragraph. This is a bio. You must write something. If you feel uncomfortable writing about yourself, have a friend do it. Okay. And you need a professional photo. When I look at DCBS, a professional photo, the basic expectation is that the lighting is right. It needs to be in focus. Okay. There is no amount of artistic license when it comes to your bio being out of focus, right? It needs to be a clean shot and in focus. The composition needs to be good, just enough headroom. So that's something that you will need to have. And that criteria needs to cover all of your work. Now, if you feel you're not professional or perfect yet, that's okay. You can put student work on there. As you increase, you'll put more and more work, things that you prefer. And at that point, you really want to only put your best. If you do, both of you may have a lot of work. Choose your best. Okay. Like if you also put photography, you don't need, I'll see students often put 4 or 5 images from the same shoot and almost from the same angle. So that's not necessary. Okay. Make sure everything really, fewer shots is best that reflect your brand, quality and your brand, not quantity. Okay. So quality before quantity. But do have at least 4 samples. Okay. We talked about aligning it with grids, and we talked about context, listing your role in those videos. You can have a skills page. It could be a drop down from Works if you want. Always be careful with drop down. If a drop down menu covers content, then we can't use it there. That is, if it covers up a heading, if it covers up faces. Some people get a little excited with, a little ambitious with their drop down menus, and we need to limit that and only use them if you have to. You're going to list, like a resume, you're going to list your skills. That's going to be there. You can have a list of select clients if you have a lot. You don't need to put everything there. Just a couple that, that you are selecting as being your better ones. And as you move along in your career, you'll continue to edit those and put your very best clients there. Make sure that you will, update your contact page That just means, again, no placeholder text. You're going to put your name. And then when we talk about layout, your headers will need to be consistent in size. The font needs to be consistent, page to page, and the color consistent. And what you'll do is you'll choose one style for the head and one style for the body text. Oftentimes that will be a serif for one and a sans serif for the other. Those tend to work well together. If you have any questions, you can go to fontjoy.com and play with different combinations of font. You can also do a simple Google search for font pairings, and they will give you some that match, right? And we talked about aligning text left. You're going to align your work in grids, and you're going to align your text to the left. So these are some of the most important things. And you will do most of these, and you'll remember these, and you probably will check these off right away. Some you might have to go back and remember, but now that you know these things, you will have a better chance of not doing them in the first place. Can everybody see the dashboard here? Okay. Sometimes the pages don't advance, and I don't want to get ahead of you. Some of these, usually you'll have an explore, an analysis, and a project. The explorers are usually videos, and that will go over, again, the user experience. It'll go into some detail, and you'll write up some of your best takeaways on that. Your analysis, you'll be looking at other cinematographers, professionals, and find sites that you like to give you an idea of what you want yours to look like, to inspire you, to guide you a little bit, to help you choose the template that you want. And then you'll submit a proposal. Now, the proposal will look complicated, but it isn't. And students say, when I ask what advice would they give students, that's what they say, that the proposal simply looks difficult, but it isn't. So what I want you to do then is you'll go through, and once you create and write about all of these things, you'll be done. Okay? And then we go here. So it's really just between here. This is where you're going to also prepare your style guide. An asset inventory is simply a list of your files. Sometimes we don't know where all our files are, right? So you're going to create a folder that have all your videos that you need, has your logo in there, graphics, written content that you may have, put your bio in there. All the things that are going to be a part of your website. That's your asset inventory. And then you're going to take a screenshot of that file folder with everything in it. And that's going to be what you upload the screenshot for this. And I do want you to rename your images and your videos. If you have an image that's named QRP JPEG, .jpeg, name that something very short and simple that relates to the content. Your sitemap is actually just a list. Okay, that's just going to be, it can be a bulleted list of the pages that you intend to have. That's your sitemap. Your wireframe is a layout drawing. You can do it any way you want. You can use Keynote, you can use PowerPoint, you can draw by hand. If you do, please use straight lines, use a ruler or something. And for every page that you have in your sitemap, which will probably be a home, a works, an about me, and a contact page for sure. Okay? And so let's say you have those 4 pages. You are then going to have 4 drawings, illustrations of those pages. That's all it is. Even if it's a one screen that rolls and rolls, you're still going to have 4, one for every page on your navigation. for every button that you have there, you're going to draw a simple layout. It's not going to have anything in it except placeholder squares. It might have a circle for your logo in the same place on every page. You will have um, little movie icons to show that that's where your videos are going to go. But you would have 4 because you have 4 pages of your sitemap. So for every page of your sitemap, that's how many wireframes you'll have. There's simply a wireframe outline. All right, so very important, please delete the instructions. Only put the content that works. Okay, so when you say you're currently on the wireframe, Daniel, what do you mean? That you've already begun? Great. And also, it might help you to know, you can also create your wireframe in Illustrator if you're comfortable with that. What's great is when you make little buttons and things like that, you can save it into your Adobe Illustrator library and reuse them. Okay? You can make, so let's say your header or banner staying in the same place. You can duplicate that artboard and have those there. So that's really one great way to do it. But otherwise, you do whatever is comfortable for you. But yes, looks a little like this. You notice that this is in the same place. The logo's in the same place everywhere. You're going to have navigation, even if it's a one page that keeps scrolling and you only have it once. You're going to have it for every single page that you have in your sitemap. You're going to also put this if it's fixed, and it should be. Okay. And then this is part of your style guide. This is where your logo, you have a chance to do that. Your text that you're going to choose and the colors that you're going to choose. You can also write your tone, but I have a feeling that usually those students who show up to the live sessions don't have a problem with understanding the instructions actually. So let's go back and see if there's anything else that might trip you up. Again, the Explorer is going to be a Lendo, which should be in the LinkedIn. If your link is not working, simply there'll be a button up at the top left if you end up in lynda.com to take you to LinkedIn, and just look for this. And it will come up. Hopefully those links are working now, but that'll be some recourse for you just in case. You can start looking at templates at any time. You can jump into Wix and start playing around with that. And so around December 9, you will present your site launch. It should have a lot of the basics. Certainly each page will be there. And if you have a logo, it's a good idea to put that there. And if you have your work picked out and ready to go, all of that should be there. Some tweaking will happen after that, but the bulk of it will happen here. Google Trends, I hope that everybody does this because it's one of the simplest, quickest assignments you can do. It's just super helpful, and that's why it's in here. It's very eye-opening. It just happens to be easy. And so I really cringe when a student doesn't turn this one in. They look at the weight and think they can bypass it, but it's such a very powerful tool and not difficult to finish. And then around the 16th, you're going to resubmit your revision. And you'll go through your checklist, and I may ask to see it again, just to make sure that all of those revisions are made. And so here's the thing: somebody can make 100% on the site launch because they've met the benchmarks for that particular assignment. But if they don't implement the feedback, they won't make an A or 100 on the project revision. So I think I'm speaking to the choir here, but if somebody feels like, that it's finished when they get their soft launch because they made a 100, that would be a mistake, because all of the feedback that I give needs to be implemented in order to get a 100 on the next iteration, your project revision. So, are there any questions about what is coming up? I think you're both in a great spot. You can always text me if you have a question or if you need something. Otherwise, I think that you will appreciate the order of this class. And so I thank you for coming to this. I hope you have a wonderful break. And if you have any questions over the break, I will probably still be monitoring it. It's fine. Okay, you're not required to work, but if you have a question, I don't mind you contacting me. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.